What's good, everybody? It's your boy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of The Celebrity Junk. Jayda Cheeves is a very attractive young woman who is a social media entrepreneur. She's from the great state of Georgia, and her fame has allowed her to meet many celebrities. She's been dating on and off Lil Baby, not to be confused with the other artist, Da Baby. But she is I would say she's a young feminist. She believes that, women rule the world and women are taking over, and she's starting a podcast. That sort of talk I'm not really going to be dealing with because that's kind of, emotional stuff and jibber jabber. I'm going to only deal with what she's talking about in this particular video. And the video that we're going to play is pretty much saying that men in today's world are not showing the same respect to women that they did in the 80s and the 90s. Now, she is relatively a younger woman, so I don't know what she would be able to compare the 80s and 90s to, other than what someone told her or what she could hear from music as far as love music. But being a guy that was born in the 80s and raised in the 90s, I could tell you that the kind of, problems you have in black dating are almost the same. Now, guys were a little bit more nicer than I would believe now, but I want her to give her opinion on this, and then I want to come back and give mine.
And lately, I always be asking my friends, do y'all feel like the value of women to guys have went down, or guys just don't, respect us, appreciate us how they used to back in the 80s and the 90s? Women control literally, because I could say this now, but I only say that because of status. We making hella money just like these. But as far as a man literally worshiping the ground a woman walk on, it's kind of rare these days. We running out of that. And it's kind of scary in society today. And I don't know, I might piss a lot of people off talking about this, but this is just conversations I be having with my friends. But guys don't appreciate us. I don't know what it is. This might be just something I talk about on maybe the first topic I talk about on my podcast, because I don't know. It's just a little weird these days. It's like we gotta fight for a spot in these lives, or they want to put. I don't know. I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna save this for my podcast because I know I got a podcast coming out here. We all about to be acting normal. I got a podcast coming. Stay tuned. But yeah, I don't know. That's gonna be the first topic I talk about though, because it's real different out here. But we do run the world for sure. We control the world. I feel like the reason it's spinning. Women are taking over day by day, and that's just all I'm gonna say for now.
So you heard what she had to say here, okay? Now, she says she always asks her friends, do y'all feel like the value of women to guys has gone down, okay? Our guys don't know how to respect us or appreciate us like they did back in the day. She says we're running out of that, and it's scary. Let me kind of talk about a few things I think has changed the scope of what we see today. The internet. We knew that back in the 90s, you had girls who were, doing certain things and stuff like that. But most of us were secluded to really where we lived. Like for me, I lived in Del Paso Heights, and a guy like me who wasn't even affiliated in gangs, you didn't even want to go across town to South Sac or G Parkway or, God forbid, Oak Park. It was just something that you just didn't want to do. So we only really lived and dated in a very, very small community. So if you were a very good looking young lady, you're a nice looking young lady or average looking young lady, competition was much more difficult. So men had to be a lot more nicer and things like that. Also, what we were taught about women came directly from their mothers. Now, obviously we had hip hop, and hip hop taught a certain thing, but when you're dealing with women in real time, you were trying to be a nice romantic guy because you were taught that way. what happened is that when guys were able to kind of compare notes on the internet and the evolution of like things like World Star Hip Hop or dating sites and things like that, what it allowed guys to see is, damn, a lot of these things I'm seeing about women in today's world are the same problems that other guys are having, like in London or in New York City or in Birmingham, Alabama. And, you got to see women on social media doing things that maybe they may do in their own personal home. They started doing it on the internet. So you start seeing some ladies on OnlyFans and some ladies with some of their toxic posts against men, their black Twitter. So what has happened is that the female rhetoric against men grew larger and larger, and the response from men grew larger and larger. Or sometimes you'll have men that may start those conversations in a negative fashion, and then women respond. But what you saw is the vitriol against men, especially black men in the black community, be met with the same energy that we saw with black women on Oprah, black women on Gayle King, and Fix My Life, and then the blogs Ebony and Essence. So guys started to respond to it in the same way that they had been dealing with it their whole entire life. And also, she said also, well, why don't we get that same kind of love? I think entitlement with young women has gotten worse. When I was a young man, you kind of knew that you had to make money to get girls. But now it's like a lot of dudes are like 17 and 18 now, and they're already expected to make $100,000. So women's entitlement grew, but then the competition for black men from other groups grew as well. So the problem is that you're not stuck in black America as you used to be. The world is open. So like I said, if I was in the 90s and I grew up in Del Paso Heights, I only could really date in North Sacramento where I lived, where I catch the bus. But with the world as open as it is, if your entitlement grows and I'm doing a little bit better, I don't necessarily have to deal with you, and even in the same country. And this is what has shifted a lot of black men away from certain sisters. And this is not all women. And I want to kind of clarify that. Obviously, women who are going to be feminine and understand those roles, and that you can still correct men in a certain type of way and still be a decent woman. Those women are always going to do very well. But the kind of young women like Jayda Cheeves, who is very, very opinionated and women run the world and stuff like that, most guys are not going to be okay with women talking to them like that. They're just not. So men are going to also feel that, well, you're just as equal as I am, so you need to do it by yourself. This is why I believe also men have come across, like in the streets, you've been seeing a lot more women in the gang world, getting shot by guys. I've seen gang members say like, hey, like in the 90s and 80s, you just didn't see that towards women, but you're seeing it more now because guys have been taught like, women are equal and they can do what you can do. And I'm not saying that that's right, but you've even seen that played out in the gang culture, that women are being assaulted is sometimes as brutal as some men are. And I think that women like Jayda Cheeves, who put out this kind of narrative that women are running the world and women are better than men and all kind of stuff, I think when you say those things, it makes men have less of a care towards you, because you can't talk like that and then want a man to be so romantic towards you, to kind of want to protect you. And I think that that's what's happened as women became more stronger and more independent, or at least using those talking points. It's really made men like, their protective mechanism has decreased. This is why you can see women getting jumped or fighting, and maybe in other countries you would see it stopped. But now guys are taking out their cell phones and taping it. And so what happened is that the advance of feminism has turned men off. And what you're seeing is this young lady wants to have it both ways. She wants to be able to talk in the feminist terminology and in a way that may be demeaning to men, but you still want that man to be romantic towards you. You still want his energy and protecting like you did of old. And you're not like the ladies of old. These guys don't want to protect as much as they did in the past. because they're being talked down to by women like her. And you're going to continue to see, for those women who act like that, a less and less interest in women who respond like that, and more interest in feminine women who may be in the United States or outside the United States. But guys, what do you think? It's your boy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of The Celebrity Junk. I really appreciate you for all that you do. Subscribe with the bell. Check out the first comment at the top. And as you know, the buffoonery remains an all-time high. I'm out.